Hi everybody out there in Okemo Valley TV land. This is Joann Erenhouse with Senior Solutions, the Council on Aging for Southeastern Vermont, bringing you a really exciting program about all of our volunteer visitor activities and what we've done, what we've been planning, and some really exciting news that we got yesterday for an extension and another big program. So I'm going to introduce our team. We have Vicki. She is our volunteer coordinator, who is our mastermind and visionary. We have Valerie, who's also extremely good at coordinating, and she is actually running most of the volunteer services out of the Brattleboro area, matching people and so forth. Then we have George, who's a fairly new recruit, and he is working on locating places for caregiver support groups. And we have Patty, who works in the Upper Valley. She has done a tremendous job this past year doing organizing shopping trips because, you know, with the COVID, most of our volunteers were not able to go into people's homes. So we had to be quick on our feet. And I say Patty was extremely quick on her feet. So she'll tell you all about what she's been doing and what she's doing now in regards to working with the Bugby Senior Center. And to my left here, to your right, is Gary, and he's been very instrumental taking on the organization of our Veteran Advisory Council, which oversees and helps plan the policies and helps implement what we're doing for our vet-to-vet visitor program. And me, I just check in with everybody and give them all the support I can. So I want to tell you one thing before we get started, and that is that we have a multi-level volunteer visitor program. We started with Seniors Companions several years ago, which is a federal program. And then Vicki said, you know, not everybody who wants to volunteer is over 60 years old. So she started our Friendly Visitor Program, and we'll talk about that. Then we discovered that many of the veterans who used to attend the American Legion down in Brattleboro were aging out, and many of our veteran groups were losing members. So what did Vicki do? We got in touch, and the state of Maine gave us some information, and we went and conferred with the American Legion because she'll tell you, it's the veterans who lead this program, not us. We're like the people behind the scenes, the admin. We do like the grunt work, the paperwork, the reporting work. They do all the real work. And then recently, due to COVID, we've been finding out that there are a lot of people that are caring for loved ones on a 24/7 basis. And they're getting exhausted. They're getting depressed. So we wanted to figure out what can we do to help them. There's not enough in-home paid caregivers. So we have come up with a plan to implement a respite caregiver volunteer visitor service to help fill the gap and give these wonderful people who care for their loved ones a chance to do something for themselves for a few hours. That's in a nutshell. Now I'm going to let this team take over and talk about the wonderful things that they've been doing and some of the things that the volunteers have done, because they're the real stars of the program. Vicki, would you like to give us a little introduction?
Thank you, Joann. Just so everyone knows, I could not have done this without you. Your support has really made all the difference, and this team is I'm so grateful for, and you will know more about that when you hear them speak as well. So I'm just going to do a quick overview of the program, and then we will be describing it in more detail as we go on. But the most important message I want to make sure is, you know, out there is how much we value our volunteers. Okay, that's, you know, in addition to the need aging in place that we were responding to, we have the most amazing volunteers that we have stories that could, document why we value our volunteers. So that's the first point I want to make. The purpose of our volunteer program is, or the role of the volunteer really is to provide companionship and friendship to our aging in place population. We have many recipients that are isolated or experiencing loneliness. Maybe they've lost a spouse. Maybe their family lives far away. We have folks that have lost the ability to drive.
That's
and
right.
don't have any transportation because of physical conditions brought on by aging, and they've had a disconnect with their community. So all of that is what our volunteers do. They fill that void for our population. We have, as Joann described, we have a few volunteer options that folks can choose from. One of them being our home visitor program, and that is usually a volunteer comes in and is matched with someone they're compatible with, and they spend an hour or two a week, and they engage in activities that are, enjoyable for both of them. We have our vet-to-vet program, where veterans are matched with veterans, and they sort of regain that buddy system that they had when they were in the military, in their early days. We also have a senior companion program, and the difference with the senior companion program is it does provide an hourly stipend.
Vicki, let me
Go
put
ahead.
in for a second. Isn't the senior companion program a federal program? And that's why it's a little different, more restrictive, et cetera, right? Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was hesitant about throwing in those titles and, that level of administration. But yeah, it is a federal program, and it does have some regulations that go with it. But it does provide a stipend. It's a small one, but it does give an hourly reimbursement, and it's meant as an incentive to help the volunteer afford to be able to volunteer. That's what that's about. And then our newly formed program that we're going to be talking quite a bit about is our respite care program, and we're excited about that. We're hoping to have it in place by the end of November if COVID allows, and we don't have to sort of slow down a little bit. But we have family members, be it sons, daughters, relatives, husband, wives, that are caring for individuals that are aging in place who have physical conditions that require a watchful eye. So someone needs to be there with that person while the caregiver is out and about doing errands or even just taking a break. And as you said, caregiver burnout is really on the rise, and we have hope for some more supports for that as well.
That's why some of these team members are here, because they're working really hard.
And we're all pulling together on this. I mean, that's what we're hoping to have for an outcome, more supports for the overall needs of this family. We also have Senior Solutions does have caregiver grants that we provide where the caregiver can actually employ a homemaker. So those are other options, but in terms of our volunteers, we're asking our volunteers to maybe give a block of time, and at their convenience. It's not, we won't be kind of getting people into something that they wish they hadn't. We're going to work with our volunteers so that it's comfortable for them as well as the people they're serving. So a block of time would be great, enough to give the caregiver time out, and that's what that's about. And we just learned yesterday that we have a grant, I couldn't wait to say this, that will be providing a pretty generous stipend for the volunteers who are doing this respite care. It's called AmeriCorps grant. You'll hear a lot more about it over time. So
that's right. We're so excited, honestly,
yes.
Because this team has done a lot of work based on the planning grant that we had to apply for previous to the implementation grant. And we made such headway and made such a big difference that we were feeling, how are we going to keep this sustainable? Mm-hmm. And now that we found out that great news yesterday, mm-hmm. we don't have to worry about that.
And so just to be clear about that, the AmeriCorps grant will be to bring on a number of volunteers who will provide respite care for folks aging in place. And we will be contacting our community partners to act as a host for some of these volunteers. So we hope to be able to reach the greater part of our service area, which is Southeastern Vermont, with these volunteers. So,
And we serve both Windsor and Windham County, right?
yes, so how to become a volunteer? I'm just going to move here and let Valerie sort of take over. There's an orientation process, and Valerie can talk more about that.
Sure.
Okay.
I'd be glad to. So thanks, Vicki and Joanne. Yeah, so our volunteers, when they come into us, one of the first things we do is we run a background check on them, and we also run a DMV check if they want to drive or interested in driving the people they serve. We call them recipients. They're recipients anywhere. So we do those first two things just to make sure that the clients will be safe once they are matched with one of our volunteers. So the volunteer initiation process is really simple. Basically, we try to get a feel for who our volunteer is, what they like to do, how much time they have to offer, when it would be convenient for them to meet with their client, and that sort of thing, so that we get a feel for them, so that when we go to match them with a recipient, we hopefully create a compatible match that both parties will enjoy. So prior to, once our background check on the volunteer has cleared, we basically provide them with a handbook of senior solutions, which covers all of our policies and protocols, so that the volunteer has a good sense of what to do if something occurs while they and their recipient are meeting or that sort of thing. It also covers our policies such as confidentiality, keeping the client's personal information safe and confidential, and also all of our volunteers are mandated reporters, so it's important if they see anything where they think their recipient might be experiencing any sort of elder abuse or that sort of thing, they'd report it to me or Vicki, and we look into it. So once that process of orienting the volunteer, familiarizing them with senior solutions and the many other services we offer that their clients might benefit from, we meet with the client and the volunteer, and we see if they're compatible. And I'll also just back up and say that we do this process with all of our clients too, in terms of we try to find out, do they like to play cribbage? Do they like to garden? Are they capable of going for a walk? Do they always have to use a walker? All sorts of things, so that both the client and the volunteer will know what they're getting into. And the thing that I find so amazing about all of these programs, Vet to Vet, Senior Companion, and Friendly Visitor, are that in 9 times out of 10 cases, both parties get along famously. We've had matches that have gone on for years. It's really heartening to see people create this bond between each other and fulfill that need in both parties for companionship and friendship. And I'll just say one more thing about that, which is some of our greatest volunteers themselves are in their 80s. And they're matched with people in their 70s or 80s. And so it's pretty amazing that something very simple, bringing 2 people together, can have such a profound influence on the clients in terms of brightening their world and making them feel less isolated and alone and more a part of their community.
I think that's very well said.
Very
And
well.
thank you. And it is amazing how both parties, both the volunteer and the recipient, they both get so much out of it. And during COVID, as we remember, a lot of our volunteers were really missing.
Yeah.
And trying to think of creative ways to do things, like taking a walk outside, visiting on a porch, doing things, and they have really kept sustainable friendships, which is so
Really
meaningful
nice.
to everybody.
It's incredible. Yeah.
So thank you.
And I forgot to mention our friendly phone call program that we have,
yes,
because
true.
we have many volunteers that are only doing phone calls, and especially during COVID, it was the difference between a person hearing their own voice.
Right.
in a day's time or week's time. So,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
So George, you're the new guy on the block here.
Yes.
Have you felt that you are glad that you joined the team?
Yes, so far, up until this point. No, but,
You don't want to be a star for 15 minutes?
Come on, George, it's your chance.
I'm here to give the program, the Caregiver Support Group program, some perspective. And recent studies have shown that there's over 133,000 older Vermonters, or that group that is over 65 years of age. And out of that 133,000, about 9% have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia-related disease.
That's
ADRD.
impressive.
And that's 9,000 equates to over 12,000 Vermonters that are being cared for. And the study continues to show that 80% of these caregivers, there's an average of 2 caregivers
Okay.
per dementia case
Okay.
recipient.
Yep.
So that's nearly 22,000.
That's a lot of people who are caring for their loved ones.
Exactly. And out of those 22,000 caregivers, 80% are loved ones caring for their aunt, uncle, parent, spouse.
Yeah.
So, and out of that percentage, there's another percentage that is a 24/7
Yeah.
situation, which is what we're targeting. This group of several thousand caregivers that have no time for themselves. And the problem that it begins or grows for those individuals
Sure.
is a depression,
Oh, yeah.
a lack of health care on their own behalf.
That's right. Like when do they go to the dentist?
Right.
They don't have time.
And so that's what the Caregiver Support Group and the Caregiver Volunteer
how do they get
Respite
there?
Program is to identify these caregivers and then match them with a suitable volunteer that will allow them to go to the dentist.
Can I put a little personal thing in here? I knew somebody at home who had his own business and had his mother living with him. And his mother started to get signs of dementia. And as she progressively got worse, he was, and the rest of the family lived in other states. He had the full responsibility. He's running his own business, trying to keep an eye on his mother, until finally, one night in February, she tried to climb out an upstairs bedroom window. Because as many people with dementia or Alzheimer's, they like to wander. And you can't really run your own business and watch a grown woman 24/7. So he almost lost his entire business while he was trying to find a place where he could safely put her in a facility.
Yeah.
And that has to be going on in probably 90% of these households. Wouldn't it be nice if for these people they had us there and some volunteers who could come in and let them go out and maybe go visit nursing homes if that's what their loved one needs. They're really caught in a web and they start to feel helpless. This is amazing. Thank you.
And I just mentioned these numbers to show
Yeah.
how big the problem is
Yeah.
and the need, how big the need is
Yeah.
for volunteers
Yeah.
to help these wonderful caregivers catch a breath so that their family can go on.
And we're only part of the solution.
Oh yeah, we're not the total solution.
Right, because there's a shortage of home health aid, paid
Yes.
home health aides as well. So, it's sort of going to take a village in order to come up with the supports that these
We're like
folks
the little
need.
Dutch boy
Yeah.
with his finger in the dike.
Yeah, but we're making, making it an awareness.
Yes,
is
that's
what helps.
so important, because the more we all talk about it, the more people who have loved ones talk about it, the more our legislators hear about it, the more the economic development powers that be hear about it. And I think right now there is starting to be a lot more recognition up in Montpelier for the needs of the aging population and their families.
We can vouch that the referrals that come into our helpline have almost doubled for respite care.
Oh, I believe it.
And most we have to turn away because our volunteers aren't prepared.
Right, because we train them. We're
But
going to have a very robust training so that they're aware, and once they get paired with someone, they're going to learn all about that person's diagnosis and habits. You know, this is very individually centered.
Yeah, we can talk about the training after we get
Yeah,
done.
I can't talk about the training.
Okay.
So yeah, it's it's a difficult topic, but it's so important. So everybody out there, if you have loved ones or you have friends or family in this situation, talk with them. Call them up. If you haven't talked to them for a while, call them. You know, throw them a lifeline. So Patty, you're up next to bat. You're our pinch hitter now. So could you tell us about your experiences and what you've been working on?
Well, I'd like to say I have a few different hats with Senior Solutions, and I enjoy each one of them. Yeah, I am a friendly visitor, one of Vicky's friendly visitors. I've had two clients for almost 4 years now, and they look forward to my visit, and I look forward to their visit as much. Vicky and Valerie control the orientation part and help bring people in, and I'm kind of the third spoke in that wheel, and I actually match the volunteers who I've never met. They've met them, and I haven't met them, but I match the volunteers with the clients.
Nice.
I do that through the Helpline. I work remotely in White River Junction, and through the Helpline, I receive an email and gives me a little bit of information on what people need, and I get to work managing both Windsor and Windham counties. I have a list of volunteers that we have and make some matches. And like everybody said, since the COVID, I mean, these connections are so important and have really kept people from feeling that isolation that we were all feeling during that time. And as people have also said, it's been sustainable. We've been able to keep everybody, you know,
And then,
getting
thanks
what they need.
to Patty's great work. I mean, Patty matches people with volunteers who need shopping, trips done, and errands, and
Appointments at Hitchcock, doctor's
That-
And those are
appointments,
important functions.
Yeah, they-
Right.
eye appointments. I mean, there's all kinds of things.
our
And
errands
sometimes
program.
We
Right.
call Patty the miracle worker because there's some referrals that come in, like next day, 5 o'clock trips to
Yesterday.
Dartmouth that, you know.
you kidding
And
me?
somehow she's
Yesterday.
able to
Wow.
fill them.
Yesterday, we had one that came in at 1:30. I didn't see it. It was called to my attention
9
because
o'clock
I was
this
on a
morning.
Zoom at 2:30. And this this client was just called in from Hitchcock and told that he was accepted for surgery this morning.
Oh my goodness.
And so he needed a ride to get there
At 9:30.
at
Patty,
9:30
I'm
this
sorry.
morning.
I can't see clearly. I don't see the wings on your back.
They're there.
They're there.
Anyway, like I said, and if it wasn't for the fourth spoke in this wheel, our volunteers, none of this would happen. I mean, I just can't say enough about our volunteers. I mean,
I
if he
think-
didn't answer the phone or, you know.
Yeah,
You did
yeah,
find
so-
someone
oh,
for
yeah,
him.
right off.
Oh,
So,
It really does speak well to the character of many of our Vermont neighbors. You know, as we've all experienced, when push comes to shove, Vermonters step up to the plate.
Vermont
And-
strong.
Oh, you know it. You know it. So we have to give a shout out to all of our volunteers and each and every one of you out there who goes, helps to cut neighbors' lawns, picks up medication for older people. Whatever it is you're doing, you are volunteering, whether you know it or not. And we just
Shovel
want to
the
thank
wall.
you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here comes winter.
Absolutely.
Break
So.
those leaves.
Oh, gee, don't remind me. Okay. Thank you, Patty. Did you want to add anything else?
Well, you did mention Bugby.
Yeah, I'd like
so
you to
with
talk
Bugby
about-
is another under our umbrella of the Bugby Senior Center in White River Junction. We are, and Gary will talk about this next. We are looking at a couple of places for memory cafes.
Patty, what's a memory cafe?
Well, a
Just,
memory.
okay.
Gary will touch on this as well. but
a party.
a memory
It's a
cafe
party.
is it's kind of like, I don't want to say daycare or adult day, but it's kind of something like that where you can bring your loved one who has cognitive impairment or some, signs of dementia, and kind of help them live, help,
Right.
take care of them and help them get through their day, both the caregiver and the client.
It must be a
on
big
different-
challenge on a day-to-day basis.
It is. That's another big challenge out there. A lot of people
Yeah.
struggling, caregivers struggling with that, taking
Wow.
care of their parents. And, yeah,
And to be able to bring that person to a safe place
exactly.
where they can function at their own level without impeding or feeling like they're in the way of other people.
Right.
I think that's a wonderful concept, and I can't imagine a better environment.
Right.
It's appealing to the caregivers because they can set aside some time during a month or maybe even a week where they can be in a social environment and not worry about their behaviors of their loved ones or
That's
that
right.
person be inappropriate.
Vicky's saying it
Yeah.
well and Patty's saying it
Jump
well.
in.
And this is kind of multifaceted, and
Yeah.
it's really wonderful to be part of a team and work with this team. And in particular, lately, I've been working with George and Patty on issues related to responding to dementia. And part of it, the Memory Cafes, really is, it's pretty wide open and grassroots, but it's a safe, comfortable place that you can go with somebody with dementia and not feel stressed or anxious. And usually there's activities, music, possibly some food, and it's something that's regular. There's some in our existence already that we're looking at as models, but we're also looking at that coupled with respite, because folks do need a break, like Joanne was talking about earlier. And then I've been really pleased to be working with George because we call each other on the phone. He's looking for caregiver support groups, which is a little bit different. That's more focused on the caregiver of somebody with dementia. But it's all part of our response to dementia, and with an aging population, it's something that's not talked about enough and something we need to do better to address. But it's wonderful to work on this team.
Well, you've done an awful lot. We haven't talked yet about the vet-to-vet visitor program per se and the Veterans Advisory Council. And you were very instrumental in that.
Well, the veterans they're amazing. I mean, I'm lucky because I'm on a planning grant that has different parts, so it's kind of exciting. And part of it has to do with memory cafes, but part of it has to do with veterans. And because of other folks' work, Vicki and Valerie and people before me, there's a robust vet-to-vet program. It's both of our counties. It's Windham County and Windsor County, but really we're strong right now in Windham County because of a relationship with the Brattleboro Legion. They're a can-do legion. So it's the veterans. And the Veterans Advisory Council that I've been working to develop is to guide the vet-to-vet program and grow the vet-to-vet program, which is so important. And what's exciting now is that we're beginning to make inroads in Windsor County. And I was able to meet with the Heartland Legion the other day, and
Nice.
a first small step, but that's Windsor County. And it's the veterans really that are rolling up their sleeves. And what's really exciting is that we always think of folks that are older as needing all the help, but there's an awareness now that folks coming out of Afghanistan and Iraq, that they may need help. And our veterans that oftentimes are Vietnam vets and older are ready to kind of share what they've experienced and their strength. So it's not one directional. So it's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting. And of course, starting out in the vet-to-vet program, we recognize right off the bat, the veterans are not seeing themselves ever as victims or needing help. The veterans are they're going to take care of you and everybody else people. And we respect that and we honor that, and we're so grateful for that because they don't let anything stop them. You know, I think you probably saw on one of our rack cards 2 veterans fishing together. That was one of our volunteers with a veteran who couldn't get out on his own. You know, did it matter? No, because as Vicki mentioned, the buddy system starts in boot camp. And all we have done is extend it into later life. These veterans, whether they're men, women, and anything in between, they have each other's back. And that's what we want.
And I just want to add, their service commitment doesn't end when they leave military.
right.
Right.
They're still dedicated to providing service. We have many veteran volunteers that work with other non-veterans in some sort of capacity.
Yes.
We had one veteran that had to cut a tree down in order to get into somebody's driveway so he can get some food for them. I mean, you hear these
He had the chainsaw
stories
with him,
and it's like, you know, working with chainsaws, it's like, wow.
See, this is
So-
almost like an adventure club.
It is. And I just wanted to add one other thing, Gary, you can talk about this as well. Everyone loves veterans, so it's easy to get the word out in terms of asking for support for our veterans and helping it grow. So we recently were awarded a grant through the Tarrant Foundation, which is a Vermont-based foundation, and who fell in love with our Vet-to-Vet program and has given us money to actually bring on a veteran to help steer the program. So you'll
That's
be hearing
amazing.
more about that too. So we actually have a position to hire. It's a very part-time position, and Gary will be kind of working that in with his plans in the Upper Valley.
So who are the people going to call? Senior Solutions. Now, we have two
Yes.
numbers. We have a regular helpline number, which is 1-802-885-2665. And we have a new toll-free number which comes directly to us. It doesn't go to the central station in the middle of the state. And that is 1-866-673-8376. If you have a loved one that needs help, or you feel like this is inspiring to you and you would like to volunteer in some capacity, please call the number. We would love to have you join the team. You have no idea how much fun the volunteers are to be with, and we strive very hard to show them how much we appreciate them. We have appreciation luncheons and parties. We'll do anything we can to let these wonderful people know that they are the basic leading force in the program. And I just want to invite everybody out there to come join. Granted, it's not always just fun and games, but at the end of the day, you will feel like you have really done something wonderful. And it has a terrific positive impact on your health. So not for your own sake, but just come on, give us a call. We want to hear from you. If we don't hear from you, I'm going to continue to talk about it. So, and hopefully maybe in another month or two, we're going to have another program to give you an update on the new big grant that we got and what we're doing with it for the people that we all care about. That is the aging Vermonters and people who are disabled.
Right.
So just like Vicki said, there are others who we do visit and who we do care for simply because they have the same type of physical incapacity that older people have. So we don't leave them out. So thank you. And does anybody want to throw another thing in, Vicki?
I do. I just want to just make sure everyone's aware that we do reimburse mileage.
I want to say
Oh,
that.
yeah, that's right.
So,
That's
where I
important.
know this is a big area and
Yes.
that we're asking folks
Yes.
to cover, but we do reimburse mileage at 55 cents a
Yeah.
mile. And at all times, we try to place the volunteer within your neighborhood. So we like the neighbor-to-neighbor type, matching. And so we don't ask for a lot of traveling, but if you do have to travel, we can reimburse you for that.
You're right. We don't usually take someone from Guilford and send them to visit
Right.
someone in Thetford.
Right, unless they want to. We've had volunteers that were willing to do that, right,
We do
Patty?
have some that will go the extra mile.
Well, I guess there
Oh,
are some
goodness.
road warriors out there.
Yeah, we do have.
Yeah.
But this is such a wonderful program. Sometimes it's hard to express it verbally, but when you interact with these volunteers and with this team, you can have a sense of their passion and their dedication.
Yeah. And I'll just say one other thing, just because, the Delta variant is surfacing, unfortunately, Joanne. And so we, all of our volunteers and our clients, we adhere to CDC protocols and state of Vermont health guidelines. So we update our volunteers regularly on what we're suggesting in terms of them keeping themselves and their recipients safe. So
Absolutely.
no worry, no need to worry there.
Right, and also because we're dealing with a vulnerable population, and some of our volunteers are part of that vulnerable population. We have to
Exactly.
be very, very prudent.
Right.
And also support them
Yep.
with regular support meetings and trainings.
Yes, that's
And
true.
protections.
Monthly
and-
in-service trainings,
Yeah.
those are important.
Very
yeah.
important.
So we do have monthly in-service trainings where we bring in presenters that talk about topics that are related to the volunteer experiences and activities. The new training that we have in place, I just wanted to mention, this respite training. We want our volunteers to feel prepared if they're going to provide a respite service to an individual. And so we have it's a 4-week training. It starts October 26th on Tuesday for 2 hours, and thereafter, and runs every Tuesday thereafter until November 16th. So it's October 26th through November 16th on a Tuesday for 2 hours, and it will be virtual.
Oh, that'll make it easier for
Yes,
everybody.
and that training covers topics like, dementia, how to communicate, family dynamics, boundaries, what is respite, just to give some tools and resources to our volunteers so they're comfortable in that
Perfect.
environment.
Perfect, and I think it's important for people to know out there if they want to volunteer, this is not nursing care.
Absolutely.
They're not giving medications, they're not doing, personal hygiene normally, So it's not, you're not going to be like a nurse's aide or
practical
anything like
care.
that. It's just having your eyes on a loved one, so when the caregiver goes out, they know nothing's going to happen to that person. You're going to, the training is important to prepare the volunteers, and it'll be one of the tools that you'll keep in your toolkit.
Yeah, exactly.
Who else? Anybody else have final words they'd like to
I
say?
do have one other. Sorry. Volunteers
Please.
can be any age.
That's
So if
right.
you're, a young person and looking to get some experience in the medical field,
That's right.
as long as you're over 18 and we have a background check that has to be passed, come join us. We would
Yes.
love to have the younger population as
That's
part.
exciting.
Is-
Really
yeah.
multi-generational.
Right.
And we're beginning to take some small steps towards trying to work on experiential education and working with partners to get more folks interested
That's
in
right.
working to support an aging population, which is what we have
That's
in
right.
Vermont.
And,
But
I
this
hate
is
to say it,
exciting.
everybody's going to get older.
Hopefully.
Those of us here at the table, we're not getting any younger. So we want to make sure there's people out there that are trained, willing and able.
Take
Take
care of us.
I think on that note, let's say a big thank you to everybody out there. Thank you to Okemo Valley TV on air.
Absolutely.
Thanks to all the people back in the office who do so much work for our aging population.
And our volunteers.
And our volunteers. Well, they're the main
They're
reason
the
we're
wheels.
here.
They are
Yes.
the wheels. They drive our program.
Volunteers, if you're out there, we salute
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.